Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Joseph Rudy Rulo. A lot of you are probably going to be very surprised at what I'm going to talk about on this video. I've been for years, have been going through a great ordeal, something that happened to me as a child. And it's very difficult every time, there's a scandal about, somebody being raped or somebody being assaulted. And it plays over and over and over again. And when to just jump right into it, when I was a child, I lived in Port Reading, New Jersey, and there was a pool, and it was a community pool. One time I was with a friend. We were younger, probably around 8 years old, and we were looking for, frogs and snakes. And my friend and I were in the back of the pool, and a gentleman had walked over and asked us, he told us, "Oh, we know where there's snakes at." So I looked at this guy. He was older. He was about 17 years old. He had to be about, at the time, I thought he looked like 6 foot tall. And my friend said, "Oh, I'll go look." So my friend kind of disappeared for a couple minutes with this guy, and I heard laughing. And my friend came back about 5 minutes later, and all he would say was that, the guy made him lick his feet. So I had no idea what he was talking about. So long story short, I go home, tell my father. We're talking about, this was 1970 something. And remember, my dad had passed already of brain cancer. He died in 2008. But, back then, it just sounded really bizarre. So my friend at the time didn't want to do anything about it. And, it was just really weird. And a couple years went by. Then I was with another friend, and we were, this is like a hangout. Everybody, all the kids kind of go out in the woods and they go snake hunting and looking for frogs and different things. And out of the blue, this same guy comes out, which I didn't recognize him. I don't know why I didn't recognize him. He was playing hockey with the big kids, and it was obvious because he had a hockey stick. And he was like kind of groveling, saying that he lost his dog, and his dog's name was Clown. So I love animals, and everyone knows that. And my friend and I, we were going to help him look for the dog. So we got a little bit into, not behind the pool, but where it became a little bit of woods. And all of a sudden, he turned into really weird. And he said, "I have a knife, and if you tell anybody, I'm going to kill you." And I had no idea what he was talking about. Long story short, he basically touched me. Thank God, now that I'm an older adult, I realize it could have been a lot worse. But he basically pleasured himself, and it's disgusting. And I was only 8 years old. What happened after that happened, we were about maybe a half a mile away. And I yelled, "You're going to jail, motherfucker." And I ran home. I immediately told my father. My father immediately went to an elected official who, thank God, lived a block away. The elected official immediately had the police come to my house. This is going to shock you. The police took me in their car, the Woodbridge police, without my fucking parents, to identify this guy at his house. This big man, okay? I'm in the back of the police car, basically all by myself. The cop has the guy right outside of the car, and I'm terrified, and I'm confused. And, of course, I said he is the one that did it. Long story short, he goes to jail. It was Easter weekend. I ended up having to go to Menlo Park, and as a little kid, I was only 8 years old, I was an altar boy. And the police, at the place, they were checking my body. And it was disgusting. And then they brought me back to the place that it happened in. And it was horrible. The friend that I was with, sorry that I'm saying this, but you know what? He moved. And he didn't get involved. And I had to suffer from this for my whole entire life. And that night, I served Mass at church. I went to church. I was on the roster to serve Mass, and I did. And I served it with my friend, and we both were abused and assaulted. And basically, it's horrible. And he went to jail for Easter weekend. And for some weird reason, a couple days went by, and I'm a young kid and I don't understand it. He gets out. And this scumbag terrorized me for like months after, and would be with friends, and he lied to all these different people. I lost 3 friends. One who I realize now why I lost him as a friend. His mother was friends with this guy who assaulted me's mother. And his mother, was friends with the mayor's wife of Woodbridge at the time. His mother asked the Woodbridge police, asked the mayor to persuade the chief of police, who did, to go to my mother's house and father. They knew my mother had a mental illness. My poor father, God bless him, struggled for 30 years. My mom had a mental illness. So they knew that we already had our hands full. This guy who assaulted me, let's say molested me, his mother conspired with the mayor's wife, who got to speak to the Woodbridge police, and then the police went to my house and basically convinced my parents how this is not the way to go. I'm going to be on trial, that my friend, by the way, who didn't want to go to court, isn't going to testify. He wasn't. He was moving. And how I'm going to be all alone, and they're going to call me a liar. And they dropped it. And this scumbag piece of shit walked. And he's a child molester. And he hangs out today. He goes to roller rinks. And he's probably 50-something years old. His name is Steve Harmon. And I am convinced, and I am totally convinced, that he's molested probably hundreds of kids in the state of New Jersey. And I'm asking anyone who has recently heard this name, because there's statute of limitations. And this killed me. And I'll tell you, in 2001, it came to a head. Remember, I was 8 years old. This is probably 1977 around that this happened. 1977, it took me to 2001 before the anger really hit. And I realized it. I blocked it out, with, different things, and just tried to avoid it, didn't want to talk about it, and was embarrassed by it. But in 2001, I tried to take my life. And because I had anger for him, and I wanted to kill him. I reached out to the prosecutor's office in Middlesex County. This was when it was at its worst. In 2001, and I asked them about him. And they acknowledged that they know who he is. They even acknowledged the fact that this guy hangs out with young boys. But there's nothing they can do because nobody would come forward. What he does is he puts himself in position so he's always around young boys. And he comes up with all these different scams and different ways to be able to molest kids. The last time, so like I said, I got very sick in 2001 from this. And then years later, it affected me again in 2013 because I had found out that, somebody that I was close to was molested by a family member. And that further upset me. So I started doing research on this guy. And I see that he was, I believe, in Medford, New Jersey. And he was in charge of the young firefighters, young kids. It's like a auxiliary. And I sent an anonymous note. I have so many friends. He lives in Carteret, New Jersey. I have a lot of friends from Carteret, New Jersey that still bring it up. They see him. They want to beat him up. I have one friend who beat him up. But he hasn't gone to jail. And I have been living with this my whole entire life. And I have seen what's been going on in the news with all these different things, and especially with this guy Corey. He's some movie star, from the '80s, and I think he has a lot of courage to come out like he did, and basically, but then all these other things that are coming out, and this isn't political, okay? Whether it be a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, it doesn't matter, okay? You don't touch anyone, okay, unless they say it's okay. And you don't assault people. You don't touch people. And that's what this is completely and totally about. This guy, this scumbag, this animal is not on Megan's list. I'm pretty sure that he was arrested in 1977 around, and he was at the Woodbridge jail for 2 or 3 days. He doesn't even have a record for Megan's list. This piece of shit scumbag had a private investigator tailing me for close to 6 months after I let him out of jail because he was trying to follow me around with my friends to basically see if we were doing anything that would get us in trouble. That's how orchestrated this guy, his family, his mother and his father. He's basically, and this is the beauty of it, okay? I have grown to run for governor of New Jersey. I ran for United States Senator. I have a 4-year degree in college. I'm an actor on television. There's no wonder that this didn't destroy me. And it's been inside of me for a long, long time. And, I have a lot of anger from it. And it's a constant cycle. It's a constant cycle. And, you can go to all the therapy that you want. You try, running for governor and going to the town that this scumbag's in, or even thinking about the fact that this scumbag can't even be prosecuted. And the fact that he definitely, in my mind, is probably still molesting kids. And his name is Steve Harmon. And there are so many people that, I grew up with. It was horrible. And this affected everybody. And my great friends stood by me. But he had a little group of people that because he got out of jail and we withdrew the charges, it looked like he didn't do anything wrong. And he goes, listen, he's 50-something years old. And he goes to roller rinks today. He still does. And I will guarantee you, if you investigate this guy and you start talking to people that he's been around, he's probably molested half of the people that are kids that he's been around. And, people ask, why now? You try coming out and talking about this. This hurts so bad. Every time I see this crap on TV, I feel in pain. And when you see, Corey Feldman coming out and then all these other ones, I've never seen anything like this. And you know what? It's just, for me, I'm just hoping that, maybe people, if this guy is doing something wrong, it might stop him from doing something wrong because this will get him some attention. And God forbid, if he had recently, he'll go to jail. It's just beyond words for me. And I just, I can't live, knowing about this and not talking about this at this time when there's so many people. You know what? If you're going to judge anybody that comes out public saying something like this, like recently, whether they be Democrat or Republican, be really careful that it's not true. Because you know what? This really fucks you up. And in other words, this is rough. This is tough. There's so many of you watching this don't even know about this about me. So many of you do. And there's so many people that could confirm this because it happened, and probably hundreds of people know about it, but so many people don't. And I ran for governor, and, like I said, in 2001, I was so upset with him that when I called the prosecutor's office and they told me that they are aware of him and they are aware that he hangs out with young boys and that nobody will ever prosecute him. And I realized that, my God, this guy, molested me and my friend like a decade ago, and I'm horrible for this guy not going to jail. And I basically started thinking about killing him, literally going through the whole motions. And rather than trying to kill him, I brought the anger amongst myself and I almost took my life. And it took years and years and years to recover from it. And, it's affected all sorts of things, trust issues, issues with intimacy, and just so many other things. So these people that are coming out, there are people that lie about this. They should rot in hell if they lie about this stuff. But this took a lot of courage to do this. And, I have a couple friends that, up 6 months ago, the one friend told me, oh, I saw him in Carteret. He was at the shop, right? He called me. I'm like, what the fuck you want me to do? There's really nothing. I gave it up to God and I forgave him. But you know what? When this stuff happens and you start seeing like Corey Feldman coming out and talking about, like, for example, I was going to be in the movie The Irishman, and I actually turned it down because of Weinstein and hearing what went on, and that De Niro and him were like going to fundraise for Murphy. And I said, I don't even want to be around that. And I basically just told him I'm not doing it. I gave him no reason why. I got a text, I got offered, I gave some excuse, and I didn't want anything to do with it. And I thought in my mind it was my brand. No, it's not. I'm afraid. And you try going into a men's room, and I'm 48 years old. You try going into a men's room, and you're aware, and you're feel vulnerable when you're at a stall. And that's how I felt since I've been 8 years old, and it sucks. And, he took away, I was an altar boy. The day that he did that to me and my friend, okay, and I'm very, very lucky because it could have been sodomy. It could have been so much worse, okay? He touched me, and I did not authorize it, and he pleasured himself, and that's what he did. And I have been embarrassed to tell people about it, and I should never have been embarrassed. Because you know what, Steve Harmon? You are a piece of shit. And I ran for the governor of the state of New Jersey, and I'm an actor now on television. And now everybody's going to know what you did. And now you have to live where you live. Everybody pretty much knew what you were, but now everybody knows for sure, okay, who you are. And I just hope and pray that this will prevent him from being able to further cause any damage in other people's lives. You have no idea how hard this is what I'm doing right now, but how therapeutic it feels. I feel like I'm free. And you know what? I don't give a shit what any of you think. If anyone out there has a problem with me, the timeline of this, you are absolutely living in a box. You are so lucky that you didn't have your childhood taken away. Because you know what? This guy basically, as far as I was concerned, had a knife and he was going to kill me. Okay? And you tried being in a police car and, all by yourself. Back then, they didn't even, oh my God, can you imagine? All by myself. And not even my mom and my dad were in a police car. And I was with the cop, of course, but then the cop got out and went to the guy's house and brought him out. And, to be, laughed at by people and, who, he lied. He told everybody, I didn't do it. He got his mother to talk to the mayor's wife, who talked to the chief of police through the mayor. The mayor talked to the chief of police and got my parents to drop the charges. That is criminal that this happened. But a lot of bad things have happened to, out of karma for these people. I'm sure of it because you know what? The fact that people were involved with this, you know what? People were that fucked up back then that it was acceptable to, to try to let this guy off the hook. How many people did this scumbag molest since then? And you know what? His name is Steve Harmon. He lives in Carteret, New Jersey, and he's a piece of garbage. And I'm glad that this is out and, it's never too late. Thank you. God bless you. And you listen, I'm sure a lot of you are going to be really shocked, but I feel obligated. I was going to talk about it when I was running for governor, but it's so hard. You have to have the energy in you to do this. And I think what gave me the energy was the fact that, a lot of people like Corey Feldman who just came out with, with what went on with him and what's going out with this Weinstein guy. It's real. There's really people like that. Any man who touches a woman without their permission, or any man who touches a boy. And the other thing too, which is beautiful, he was African American, and I have a stepdaughter who's African American. I have a lot of friends that are African American. It did not affect me. Okay. And also, I have a lot of gay friends. And, for years, okay, I thought I was afraid of anyone who was gay. And I got through that hurdle because it's not the same. Okay. A gay man is not a pedophile. Okay. Period. And just like, a heterosexual man who assaults a woman doesn't have to be a pedophile. Okay. People, you have to see exactly what the scenario is and not judge, and understand that there's a lot of people that have been through this in their life and what they're holding in them. And they're doing drugs and alcohol and they're trying to numb all the stuff. And there's a lot of people that have taken their lives. I am positive of it. And I just hope that what I talked about, as an actor on television and as a former governor candidate of the state of New Jersey, that you understand that this touches everyone. And, before you judge someone who has enough guts to come out, understand, that it's so hard to do what they're doing. And sometimes when somebody sees someone else come out with it, you can't even imagine how it feels to have, watch Corey Feldman and hear what he's saying and say, oh my God, and then to hear all these other people and then say, you know what, this guy like literally threatened to kill me. And what I went through as a little kid, and, he didn't know that my mom had a mental illness, I don't think. So they really, until he did it, and then his mom must have talked to the mayor, and then the mayor, the police, they obviously knew my mother was very mentally ill at the time, and they saw a way that my parents were weak, that, we were struggling in our family already. My father was the most awesome father on the planet Earth, so was my mother. And, we were only, a couple blocks from the house when this happened. And my father never was the same after that happened. Nobody in my family has been the same after that happened. I remember, all my relatives were always really protective. They wouldn't want me to go anywhere, and they would watch over me. And and then that scumbag being out, and even to this day, I know he's out, and I know that he's a horrible person, and that this wasn't the only time, because I told you about my other friend. So I hope that this helps other people, and thank you.